also shut the door. And so I'm going to be saying just a few sentences about David, because David sent me his biography, but I think if I'm going to read you his biography, that will take the entire time that we are here, because he's done so many things. So I'll just take the really top of the biography, and afterwards we'll have a go around so that everyone here in the room can introduce yourselves to David and really briefly where you're from, you know, the usual thing that we do here. And then the floor will be yours, David, and at that time I'll go and get a cup of tea for you. So David Lipovsky is a visiting professor at Osgood Hall Law School, an adjunct member of the University of Toronto Faculty of Law. He holds volunteer leadership roles in the disability community. He is chair of accessibility for Ontarians with disabilities, ACT Alliance, and the chair of Toronto District School Board Special Education Advisory Committee. If anyone's cell phone is ringing nearby, that might be...
Sounds like a very feedback.
That's not me.
Yeah, I got you.
So, I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves in a go-around, and I'll make a cup of tea while you do that. Okay.
I'm Carolina Tannenbaum Baruchi. I'm from Bengal University. I'm doing a PhD about deaf people in emergencies. I'm from emergency medicine faculty.
Okay.
I'm taking here studies about disabilities, because in my university we don't have.
There's a, just a second, I've got a really, כואב לי גרון, אז אני צריך להשתמש במיקרופון. There's a Supreme Court of Canada decision on deaf people, sign language in emergency rooms in hospitals. We should talk about it later.
Okay.
Remind me.
I'm Flat. We met.
We met.
My name is Hamar. I'm a PhD candidate here, writing my doctorate on the Schirm learner. I'm an occupational therapist, and I would like to study things that have to do with assistive technology for children and adolescents with disabilities that have complex communication needs. Talking more in ICF definitions of a facilitator or a barrier, meaning assistive technology as a facilitator or a barrier to self-determination for children with complex communication needs.
Do you have connections with Bethany Shapiro?
Some.
Yes.
They're doing advanced work in that area. You should get to know them very well.
And Tamar just helped us put in quite a big proposal for EU 2020 for technology building, for capacity building. So it's a joint proposal with folks from Greece and folks from the UK, trying to put in more assistive technologies that are specific for self-determination. So it's sort of in the thought process, but I wonder what will come of that.
You might want to explore the CSUN conference, CSUN. Every March in San Diego. It is the world's biggest conference on assistive technology. There are thousands of people. They show the newest technology, but there's also workshops on new developments and lectures on law, on technology. It's amazing. I spoke there a year ago, and I'm still recovering. It was unbelievable. It's like, if I can use a Jewish term, it's the Mecca of assistive technology, law, advocacy, everything. It's amazing.
Thank you.
My name is Ira Stern. I'm a PhD candidate here at the university, and Shirley is my advisor. And I'm doing my, I'm a social worker, and I'm doing my PhD work on the connection between help-seeking behaviors and post-traumatic growth amongst family caregivers of people with dual diagnosis of intellectual disability and psychopathology.
my God.
Quite a long title.
The title page is going to be amazing.
That's it.
It's great work.
I'm Aya. I'm a social worker.
Sorry, what's your first name?
Aya.
Aya. My daughter is Raya, and before she could say the letter R, she was Aya.
And I studied here for my master's.
My name is Yuval.
You're the Yuval I've been hearing about over lunch.
That's a good plan.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
the one.
I know all about you. You cannot possibly be that nice.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Okay. And Yuval, remind me afterwards, we have to talk about some technology that's available in the U.S. that you would love.
Thank you.
Okay, who's next?
Right now, coming in, maybe Nitzan will go back to you. We're just walked in.
Hi, hello, I'm Hili. I'm doing a master's degree in social work.
My name is Edith. I'm an occupational therapist and I'm making a master in the School of Occupation Therapy. It's here in the university.
Hi, my name is Danielle. I'm a community social worker and I study for a master's in NGO management
Oh, wow.
here at
Fantastic. I mean, it's all fantastic to me.
I'm Tava. I'm a speech therapist by profession. I work in early intervention, mostly with children with Down syndrome, but also with other disabilities. And I'm doing a master's in early childhood education.
I also will invite you to connect with Beth Izzy Shapiro because they're doing a lot of work in that area.
Yeah, we have. I work in Shalva, and we have connection.
Oh, good.
My name is Esther. I'm also getting a master's in early childhood. I have another master's in special education, and I work as a supervisor of 7 small daycare centers that take place in the homes. You know, small groups of 5 children.
Social law, and doing my thesis on the experience on patients in psychiatric hospitals. Next to Michal is Tamar.
I'm Tamar. I introduced myself.
Right. Okay.
I'm a transcriber for part of hearing people and
Okay.
deaf people.
Great.
And the last one that just came in, Nitzan, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Nitzan Almog. I'm teaching disability studies in Bar-Ilan University, and I'm consultant for the National Insurance Institute regarding students with disabilities, higher education, and doing other stuff, trying to be activist, trying to do some practice.
I'll be speaking at Bar-Ilan next Monday.
Yeah, I know, I'm gonna be there as well.
Oh, great. If I tell the same joke, you've got to laugh,
Of course, I will.
including that joke. Okay. Thank you all very much. I apologize that I have to use this microphone because either I have a cold or I'm a lawyer who talks too much, or both. Shirley asked me to talk to you about strategies for community organizing for people with disabilities. And that topic really touches everything all of you do. Not just your research here, but if you're going to be a social worker or a speech pathologist or a occupational therapist, any of the areas of work you do, you're going to be a community organizer, whether you like it or not. You're in an important position. I'm going to give you some ideas about how to do it. My background, my profession, I'm a lawyer. I didn't practice disability law. I worked for the government of Ontario doing constitutional cases and then criminal cases. Disability rights is my hobby. I retired from my government job a year and a half ago. I'm now a part-time law professor trying to insert disability rights into as many courses as I can. And I also, as you heard in the introduction, play a community organizer and community leadership role back in Canada on disability issues. The main issues I've worked on, I'm just going to summarize quickly because we're going to then get to what you want to hear about. I led the fight for 10 years, from 1994 to 2005 in the province of Ontario, to win the passage of our provincial accessibility law. I now lead the coalition to get it effectively implemented. I also am taking part in national activity to get our national government to pass the national accessibility law, something they promised in the election 2 years ago and is being developed now. Finally, in Ontario, schools are not run by the province. Every community, every city has a school board that's elected. The province gives them money, gives them directions, but they run the local school board. Every school board in Ontario is required to have a volunteer committee to advise on chinuch miyuchad. It's called the Special Education Advisory Committee. The biggest school board in Canada is Toronto Public Schools. We have 240,000 students, including 46,000 students with special education needs, either gifted or they have a disability or both. I am the chair of that Special Education Advisory Committee, and I'm leading activity to call for major reforms to chinuch miyuchad in Toronto and across Ontario. If you want to learn more about what I'm going to talk to you about, my provincial coalition has an email list, and if you want to get our updates, you'll see how we do it, what we fight for, how we fight for it. I'm going to invite Shirley to take out a piece of paper, pass it around, and just print your email address, and I'll put you on our update list. My coalition, the Law on Accessibility in Ontario, is called the long name, Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. AODA. My coalition is the AODA Alliance, and I'm its chair. I'm the chair of the AODA Alliance. So you get updates from me. We advocate on chinuch miyuchad, we advocate on voting accessibility, on building accessibility, on everything. So now let me get to organizing strategies. I do everything weird. I don't follow the usual book, how to do community organizing. For example, the first thing you usually do when you organize is you create an organization. And the second thing you do is raise money, right? I never raise money. My coalition has no money. We have no bank account. I will not accept money even if somebody offered to give it to us. Why is that? Because we can do more without money than with money. If I want to get people to volunteer to help us, I can say, I need your help, we have no money. If I want an organization, a disability service organization, to give us a room to meet in, I say, we need a room to meet in, we have no money. If we're hosting a public event and we need sign language interpreters, I can call the deafness organization. I say, I need you to provide sign language. We have no money. It works. I've also learned that if you got no money, you got no money to steal. Nobody can accuse me or my coalition of mishandling money. Talk to Ehud Omert about that problem. I also don't have to spend any time on raising money. I also believe that if you're advocating on נגישות, זה חשוב שאנו לא מקבלים כסף מאף אחד. כי אם מישהו נותן לנו כסף, זה קשה להגיד משהו נורא על הנגישות מהארגון הזה. I don't want to ever feel that I can't criticize someone because they give us money. So I get no money. It works. We did this for 10 years, between 1994 and 2005, and we won major legislation. It can work. So that's my first example of doing things differently.
Try that every time we think about how we get money for us. Remember this.
The second thing I do is I decided early on, just me, but my coalition, that it is that I don't look for unanimity among people with disabilities. זאת אומרת, זה לא חשוב לי אם כל אחד, כל מישהו עם מוגבלות, מסכים איתנו. Why? Because it's impossible to get everybody to agree on anything. יודעים את זה בארץ. If it's impossible, אם זה אפשר, זה שטויות לנסות. להצליח על משהו שאי אפשר. So if it's impossible, I don't even try. What do? I want to get harmony, not unanimity. I look for a message that everybody or most people can agree on. Not a message that can divide people. People with disabilities often divide up by their disabilities. People in wheelchairs, they want ramps. ואלה שלא יכולים לראות, רוצים ברייל, דברים כאלה. אלה שלא שומעים, הם רוצים, איך אומרים sign language, לא יודע בעברית. Okay. And governments love this because they can turn to each group and say, I can't do something for you unless we do something for them, or you guys figure out what which of you wins and then talk to us. They can turn to each of us and point to the other and divide us up. And people with disabilities, if they're divided into their disability groups, there's fewer numbers. So what do? You come up with a request that speaks for all of us. ביחד. What's that request? חברה ללא מכשול. נגישות. We all need it. ומישהו שעיוור, אם יש מעלית בלי ברייל, זה מכשול. למישהו שלא יכול ללכת ברגל, שמשתמש בכיסא גלגלים, אם אין רמפה. וזה מכשול. למישהו שיש להם intellectual disability, אם לא משתמשים ב-plain language, לשון קל, אומרים כזה?
שפה פשוטה.
שפה פשוטה, אוקיי. זה מכשול. What we found is that מכשול is the mirror that each person with a disability can see their own life in. And then we all ask for the same thing. חברה ללא מכשול. Now we're united. Who thinks that people with disabilities should not face barriers? I say that in a meeting. Who thinks we have a world now, בלי מכשולים? everybody's together. And in fact, we play a game. It's not really a game, but if we're forming a meeting in a new community, the community organizing tool is, what's my barrier? Sit at the table. Let's go around the room and everybody talk about the barriers they know they've experienced, or people they know have experienced. And this message, when the government turns to us, they say, what do you want? We say, "Chevra lo michshol." I say, well, what are we going to do first? We say, well, Chevra lo michshol, that's first. Well, which barrier is a priority? Oh, no, you're not dividing us. Chevra lo michshol. Now let's get to work on the details. It unites people, and in fact, you'll find out in Canada that the language has shifted, and I think it's due to our movement. Interestingly, we don't talk, there's a word you haven't heard me use yet once. What's that word? Discrimination. Every barrier is discrimination, but I don't say that. We don't say that. Why not? Think about it. If I go to Shirley and I say, you're running a business, you're running a restaurant, you have madregot, shne madregot, you're discriminating against me. So I can't walk up the steps. You're going to get angry. I don't discriminate. But if I go to Shirley and I say, Yesh michshol, אני רוצה להיכנס, לשלם כסף לכם, במסעדה שלך. Oh my God, I've got a barrier. I don't want barriers in my business. I want your money. It describes our problem without attacking people's motives. And so that really works. It also appeals to all political parties. People on the left wing, they think barriers are unjust and unfair. People on the right wing, they may say barriers are inefficient. They get in the way of economic progress. I don't care why they hate barriers. I just want them to hate barriers. So I look for words that unite us. I'm a lawyer. I argue for a living. My mother, may she read Allah Shalom, she would tell you I was born arguing. But I'm a chicken. I only like an argument with one side. Who thinks that barriers are good for our society? Are they good for business? No. Are they good for people with disabilities? No. Okay. So there's only one side to this argument. The only real question is how are we going to get rid of them and how long is it going to take? We'll negotiate, that's fine. But they got to go. The next strategy. And by the way, the most magnificent image that I remember, and I can't remember when, was some 20 years ago when I stood with two dear friends of mine. Gary Malkowski, he's deaf. He had actually been the first deaf politician elected in Canada or North America. He's now in the private sector. He's part of our team. He's totally deaf. And another dear friend of mine, Carol Reback, Shalom, she used a wheelchair. And if the three of us were presenting together, Gary would talk about the need for ramps. Carol, in her wheelchair, would talk about the need for braille. I would talk about the need for sign language. You see the image. כולנו ביחד. יש לנו עדיין הבעיה, אותו הבעיה, חברה מלא מכשולים. All of a sudden, we unite, we don't divide. Now then there's more to go if you want to do community organizing. The old way of thinking was people with disabilities have to speak for themselves. sure all my social worker friends here will say, of course. It's better to have people with disabilities out front speaking than people without disabilities. If people without disabilities, that's paternalism. It's not self-determination. I don't agree with that. We do the opposite. Watch this. I'm giving a speech. I do this time and time again to a group like you. And I say, I'm talking about נגישות, אנשים עם מוגבלות. ואני רוצה לדעת אם יש לכם הבעיה שלנו. This touches your life. So אני אעשה survey. אני רוצה שכל אחד, בבקשה, להרים את היד אם אין לך עכשיו מוגבלות, ואתה יודעת שבכל החיים לא יהיה מוגבלות לכם. נא להרים את היד. אני אומר, אינני רואה ידיים. ברוכים הבאים, כולנו ביחד. We are the minority of everyone. Everyone has a disability, or gets a disability, or has someone near to them who has a disability. This is all of our fight. This is not a what? הנושא הזה זה לא מה שאלה שאין להם מוגבלות, מה שהם יכולים לתת לנו, זה מה שאנו יכולים לעשות. בשביל כולנו, this is what we could do, so when those of you who don't yet have your disability get one, you don't face the מכשולים that we face. See how I've turned it all around? Now, we're a much larger group. We're everyone. I don't care whether it's a person with or with a disability or without a disability who gets up and says מכשולים are wrong. I want all of them saying it. And I want everyone feeling like they have a stake in this. So instead of it being people with disabilities alone, we're all together. We either have one or we're getting one. There's those who got yours and those just waiting. Okay? When I do that, you don't have to be able to see to get the feeling in the room. Yeah, they laugh at my joke when I look around. And that's great. But it actually, suddenly, we've taken our numbers from 18% of the public to the entire public. And I can look at a politician and say, excuse me, politician, you run for election. Do you want to piss off the minority of everybody? I've not yet met a politician who thinks they can afford to piss off the minority of everybody. I also find with politicians, I don't talk about people with disabilities so much. You know what I talk about? Voters with disabilities. And when I tell them that there are over 1 million voters with disabilities in Ontario, it's like you can feel a little change. So this is an important strategy. The next strategy, once we've got our language together, our goal together, and we've unified ourselves behind everyone. Well, let me talk to you more about this unifying ourselves among everyone. Okay, let's assume that you're not now in a wheelchair. And let's assume all the rest of us, you're in a wheelchair, the rest of us are not. Let's assume we're going to go out for dinner after this class. You thought I was so great that you wanted to hear more of me. Sort of pathetic that you might think that, but in any event. We're going to go out for dinner. Let's go to Yerushalayim, okay? You go to one restaurant, there's 2 steps to get in. The person in the wheelchair can't get in. You're going to say, have a good time, we're going to eat dinner, see you later? Of course not. We're going to go find a restaurant that we can all get into. So the restaurant with the 2 steps, they lost all of our business. Not just the one person. That barrier hurt more people without disabilities than people with disabilities that night. And the business lost a hell of a lot of money. We're all in it together. So the next question is, okay, so how do you get started? Well, again, I'm kind of weird. You live in a country where there's more organizations than there are people. Which is why the social workers here are going to have a great career. Occupational therapists, sorry, you're just limited to people. But the social workers, you got Yirvanim, Amitot comes in. Okay. Thank you. כל אחד מורה עברית בארץ. זה עוזר לנו שמשתדלים לדבר עברית. So my experience, so you might think the easiest way to organize is go to an existing organization. And I don't object to that, but what I've found is if you're working on a new cause, sometimes if you go to an existing disability community organization, they might hear all your points and agree with everything you say. And then if you say, well, let's take this on and lead this charge, sometimes they say no. And you might think, oh, I'm going to get so frustrated. There's an existing organization. They've got a mailing list. They've got a Facebook page. Better to use an existing organization. Why would they say no? Not because they disagree with you. Sometimes, and all the time, sometimes, organizations are made up of people who've been fighting their own causes. And within their organization, they've been struggling to make their particular issue the priority. Somebody comes in the room to give another issue, and it's, oh my God, it's going to get in the way of what I've been working on. So sometimes you hear no, even though it's an objective that people should all agree on. They're not debating, they're not saying, no, we don't need that legislation, no, we don't need that policy, no, everything's great. It's not a disagreement on the substance. But sometimes they say no. Afilu ba'aretz, right, kids? Can you imagine? So what do? You start a new organization. And what I like to do is, the coalition I lead in Ontario, and the one that preceded it in the 1990s, we didn't incorporate, we didn't get money. We just started an organization, gave ourselves a name, later you get a web page, a Facebook page, a Twitter feed, and there you go. We're an organization. And you get a few people together to start who all agree on your mission. And you state your mission. You write out some principles, some basic things that we want to achieve. Whatever it is. If you're organizing parents of kids with disabilities, it might be our objective is changing the law on chinuch miyuchad, or changing practices, whatever. But you start with a small group who agree on everything. And then you start building out from there. You see, I know as a community organizer that in the province of Ontario there are 1.8 million people with disabilities. Across Canada, 4 billion. Will I and my colleagues ever be able to organize all of them? Of course not. Most of them? Of course not. So I don't worry about getting absolutely everybody to agree, or even most people to agree. I worry about getting enough people to agree to get started. And then you start getting more and more people to get involved. And what I found is some people at first, once you start a coalition, it can be a coalition of individuals and organizations. Sometimes when you approach organizations, they'll say, yep, I'm with you. Others, for the reasons I just described, they might be hesitant at first. I don't criticize them. They'll join when the time comes. And I've noticed over time that as you're making progress, more and more get involved. Each disability organization is like a family. They got their own stuff. When they're ready, they'll join. And if they don't, I don't sit in judgment. And if they join late, I don't think, oh, now you're getting involved when we've done all the hard work. I don't think that way. whenever they get involved, however they involve, fine by me. I describe it this way. We are a high-speed train. There are 4 places you could be. You can be on the train helping us move forward. That's great. You can be on the train just for the ride. That's fine. You can be outside the train on Bassadet, watching us go by. Well, I'd love you to be on board. You can join later. Better catch up. The one place you don't want to be is on the tracks in front of us. And most people won't want to fight against you. If anything, if yours is not their priority, or they're busy with other things, God bless them. There's enough issues to work on. If they want to work on another issue, that's democracy. Go do it. So I just want enough people to get started. And periodically a politician will say, how many members do you have? I say, I don't know. I know how many people are on my Twitter list, how many are on my email list. I know how many, when we ask them to sign up to go to our legislature to make presentations, I know how long that list gets. I know there are people sharing our message in the media I've never, ever heard of. And their message sounds very familiar. I know the people who get our email updates, they pass them on to other people. It's not 1.8 million people, and that's fine. I don't need to wait. I just need enough people to get going. And some of the best things we've done when we only have 10 people. You know, a year and a half ago, I gave a speech in Vancouver, British Columbia, to start a new coalition called Barrier-Free British Columbia. There were 30 people in the room. 30 people in a province of, I don't know, a couple of million people. They're great people. And they picked, we said, who wants to be on a steering committee? I don't know, 10 people signed up. They're a great steering committee. We didn't have a vote. Anybody want it? You're in. Okay? And they have done a fantastic job in British Columbia. They made progress organizing within a year that took us in Ontario in the 90s, probably about 4 or 5 years. They still have a lot of work to do, but I watched how progress can happen. The next thing I want to talk about is, once you're together, how do you get people going? By the way, I'm going to talk till the half hour, and then I'm going to take questions. And I believe in 2 things. First, you've got to set objectives, short-term objectives. And you got to give, second, you got to give people stuff to do. And third, you got to celebrate when you get your short-term objectives. So I'm going to give you a North American illustration. I live in Toronto. Some families drive from Toronto all the way to Florida. It takes, I don't know, 20 hours of driving. Cheaper than flying if you got a car full of kids. You pile the kids in the car, you pull out of the driveway, you're starting a 20-hour drive with a car full of children. What do the kids say within the first 5 minutes? Are we there yet? You got them far? I've got 2 answers as dad. First answer is no. It's going to be 20 more hours. Most of it's boring. And stop asking. Or, guess what? We're just an hour away from Niagara Falls. It's one of the most amazing places in the world, and we're going to stop there. I believe in setting milestones along the way that are reachable, that people can feel is reachable. Otherwise, it's too frustrating. This is how we got through 10 years. We might set a goal that we just want the legislature, or Knesset, to pass a resolution saying we should have a law. Just say we should have a law. It doesn't have to say the details. Who's going to say, no, you should have a law on the Gishut? I mean, I know you have one now, but I'm saying when we didn't have one. And then we work on getting us there. We give people activities. So on our emails, you're going to see that we put out action tips. We suggest what people should do. Well, like what? Well, one thing I don't do, I don't do protests, demonstrations. Why don't I do them? I don't do them for a few reasons. I got nothing against them. I don't think they're wrong or inappropriate or whatever. But there's several problems. First, you got to spend a whole lot of time getting people out. And second, when you get there, the TV image to me is just a bunch of people who are angry and yelling. I don't think that persuades anybody of anything. Third, if you don't have thousands, it works like a tiny protest. And finally, I don't know anybody, with rare exception, like if you have 1 million people, I don't know anybody in government. There's a protest, okay, I'm not going to change the policy. What I do like doing is constructing ways to, if I'm lying in bed watching TV at 10 at night, watching angry people on the screen for 30 seconds doesn't make me go to my wife and say, hey, they're right. It's like, I'm going to sleep. Okay, it just doesn't work. So what I like doing instead is giving people the tools to make a difference individually. Well, what will make the most impact to me often is going to either a reporter or to a Haver Knesset and have them put pressure or tell them their story. And what people with disabilities are the best at is telling their own story about the barriers they face. That's one thing we've all got, is the stories of barriers. The media likes stories. The media doesn't cover issues. The media covers events. After the event, they can talk about the issue. So when a dad in a little town outside Toronto a couple years ago took his daughter with cerebral palsy, 8 years old, to a fun zone place where you go in and do fun kids activities. They met her at the door and said, sorry, you gotta take your shoes off. Well, she wore orthopedic shoes. She couldn't walk without them. They'd let her in the past, but this time they wouldn't let her in. For this 8-year-old, it was like she was devastated. The dad told his story on Facebook. It went crazy on Facebook. The newspaper was interested in covering it. And then we commented on the broader policy implications. This shows that the province is not effectively enforcing our right to accessibility under the law. They promised to do it. We call on the government to immediately redouble its efforts on enforcement. The story grabbed everyone's attention, but it becomes the catapult that lets us raise the issue. And as compared to a demonstration, that little girl's story touched far more people. Now, I'm not saying never do any demonstrations ever, but for the way I like to work, I like other strategies. And I've been to demonstrations, I've spoken at them. It's fun. By the way, the other problem with demonstrations, I don't know if you have this problem here, but sometimes you organize one, it rains, or you organize one and some other news event happens, and that's it. Your story's gone. You had a great demonstration, but there's no coverage. So the last thing I want to talk to you about is, and I'm going to show you a video, is I believe that we always, and I'm going to do a conclusion, where I'm going to tell you why you're all advocates, because I said that at the start, and you're probably wondering what the hell was he talking about. You always have to reinvent your strategies. You can't just keep using the same ones. So in the 1980s, we advocated before there was an internet. In the 90s, there was email and websites, that's great. Now there's social media. And social media is an amazing, amazing tool. I could spend the entire time just talking to you about using Twitter. And I know in Israel you're not big on Twitter, and my answer is, get into Twitter. It's fantastic, and if you want to reach the rest of the world right now, use Twitter. But if you use Facebook, you can also have it set your Twitter account so that when you send out a tweet, you also have it go out on Facebook, so you get the two at once. The tweet is a short message where you can say something. I know Donald Trump has made a big deal about Twitter, but nevertheless, if anything, Donald Trump shows the power of it. But in any event, what we decided, I got an idea 2 years ago. I was speaking at a conference for blind people in the States. And I had a meeting with a small group before I gave my big speech. And a woman came over to me and said, what should I do? I have a guide dog, and I keep going to a restaurant, and they know it's illegal, but they won't let me in. And I tell them to call the police, and blah, blah, blah. What do I do? It just won't change. And I got an idea. And this one moment created in my mind a strategy we've been using for over a year. I said to the woman, do you have an iPhone? You see, all of us, lots of blind people have iPhones because they have speech technology built in. My phone speaks English, Hebrew, Arabic, you name it. She said, yeah. I said, you know how to turn on the video camera? She said, yeah. I said, here's what you do. You're at the restaurant, the guy won't let you in. You take the camera out, you click on the video, you hold it up and aim it as best as you can at him and just say, my name is so-and-so, today is May 17th, 2017, and I'm at Shirley Werner's restaurant. Sorry to pick on you, Shirley. And you, Shirley, you're the owner, right? And you just said to me, because I'm blind and have a guide dog, I can't come in your restaurant. Now, can you just, am I aiming right at you because I'm blind? I want to make sure I get you in my video before I send it to the YouTube so everybody can see it. Now, will you just repeat on my, you did say, right, that I can't bring my guide dog in, right? Now, it's not that they're going to freak out because a blind person is filming them. That's freaky. But on top of that, there's two things that are going to happen. They're either going to say, yes, I don't want to let you in, and you've got all the evidence you need now. You send that over to the media, you send it to the police, whoever, you got it recorded. Or they're going to say, oh, no, you can bring your dog in. In which case, you got in, you can't lose. So I walked away from that conversation, and I thought, there's something here. Many people have a smartphone. On the smartphone is a video and still camera. Twitter is free. YouTube is free. Facebook is free. Why don't we get people to be our frontline soldiers for accessibility using the main weapon of their smartphone? So we told people to take pictures of barriers and post them on Twitter. Now the problem if you do this on Facebook is only your Facebook friends will see it. You can share it, that's great. If it's really partly popular, it can reach a lot of people. But on Twitter, there's an added advantage. You can, if there's a search term that everybody uses, you use that search term and lots of people will see it. It's called a hashtag. You've heard the term? It means the number sign. So for example, in Twitter, number sign and then the word accessibility is a commonly used term. So if I want to say in a tweet, there's no hashtag accessibility at Shirley Werner's restaurant, sorry to pick on you again, then I attach a photograph, then not only do my Twitter followers see them, but anybody else who does a regular search on accessibility sees it. And there are lots of people who are interested in the same topic, and they watch these search terms, these hashtags. I've met people, I've collaborated with people who we meet because we use a similar hashtag. I was just at the break before I came in here, I looked on Twitter, I saw what people are tweeting on hashtag accessibility I saw somewhere interesting, I retweeted them. People do that with mine. So what we did was we invented a new hashtag for our campaign. I told you the initials for our legislation are AODA. So we spent a long time working with a couple of people who are under the age of 30 because they're the experts in social media. And we came up with the number sign and then AODA fail. So we said, just include AODA fail with a number sign in it. Now if you go on the internet, even if you're not on Twitter, just do a search on number sign AODA fail and you are going to see a huge fail, F-A-I-L, okay? And it means two things. It means the law is failing us, and this organization has failed to do what the law requires. So two things at once. So we got people all over the province tweeting barriers. What does that do? Well, it does many things. I will sit down with a politician and I'll say, Shirley Werner, Knesset, it's nice to meet you. I want you to know how many barriers there are. Do you have your phone in front of you? Go to Twitter, just search on AODA fail. And they look up and go, oh my God, I can't believe it. If I want to get a reporter to cover a story on this, I tell them, look, we've had news stories on AODA fail. A morning TV show did a whole program, starting like with various guests on other topics, but they kept coming back to AODA fail, and here's another barrier. Tweet us your barriers, we'll tell our audience. But the other thing I do is I retweet them to politicians. So if you follow at AODA Alliance on Twitter, at AODA Alliance on Twitter, you'll see that I will retweet these to every politician in the Ontario legislature.
What does that mean? Just for example,
You click read, it's like share, it's like share. So I say if the Premier of Ontario is Kathleen Wynne, and you sent out a tweet about a barrier, I just add in the words, at Kathleen Wynne, fix these barriers, and then it'll show your tweet. And then her people will see it. And if people agree like what I did, they'll retweet my retweet of your retweet to Kathleen Wynne, the Premier of Ontario. And I've had politicians come over to me and say, God, you guys have a lot of barriers. It really works. It takes a while. It doesn't start overnight. But on topics of importance, it can really work. So now I want to show you a video. Here's a great story. This is going to take, it's a 6-minute long video. Last November, a friend of mine and I went to look at a new building. We'd seen it online.
Presented by Geico.
We'd seen it online. Brand new building at a government college, community college. It's called the Culinary Arts Center. And the college is called Centennial College in Toronto. And from a couple of photos online, it appeared that this brand new building, so we went there one Saturday morning and took some pictures because we found more and more AODA fails. So we took a bunch of pictures. And then one thing happened that you're going to see in the video that wouldn't look good in a still picture. And I said, why don't we do a video? We ended up going back and videoing all the barriers. And I'm playing the journalist. My wife gave me hell when she saw this. She said, you look like a schlub. I didn't dress to be in a video. I thought we were taking pictures. But we created this video, and I just used an iPhone. And my friend just used a computer to edit them together. We did an 18-minute version, and for people who don't want to watch a long one, we cut down a 6-minute version. Well, between these two versions on YouTube, it has now been seen over 1,700 times. We released the video on the 22nd birthday of our coalition. We did a news release. I got a call the next day from a newspaper. They wanted to do a story, and a couple of days later, another disability story was breaking. They came to interview me, and our video, parts of it, ended up on a national television news report. But it isn't just the media. Somebody tweeted yesterday that they're amazed at how many architects have seen my video, our video. I've talked to senior political people and senior officials in the Ontario government who've seen our video. We didn't even plan to shoot a video. By the way, we shot a second one in another building. We haven't told anybody where yet. We're just putting it together. But it's going to make this building look good. I'm going to show you the 6-minute version. The sound is lousy. This is really amateur, but I don't care. It works. Can we show it to you?
Yes.
Make sure it's loud.
Today is Saturday, November the 19th, 2016, and I'm standing in the basement of a brand new culinary arts center built with our tax dollars at Centennial College in the northeast corner of Toronto. I'm trying to look around to see how well they did on accessibility.
Parking pay machine. You can turn on captioning if you want.
Near the accessible parking spots, there is a parking meter for you to pay for your parking. However, it's at standing height, so that's not accessible to somebody in a wheelchair who uses the accessible parking spots. That makes no sense. Exterior ramp. There is a ramp beside the stairs going to the front door, and that's good. But there's only a railing on one side, not both sides. There should be, for accessibility, a railing on both sides. Some people need one on both sides, or may need one on the side which is missing for balance. Moreover, the side where there is no rail is the side where there's a vertical drop-off that presents a safety problem, not only for people with disabilities, but frankly for everybody, especially little kids. Washrooms.
I'm now on the basement floor of the Culinary Arts Building, the brand new building at Centennial College in Scarborough. And here they have a public women's washroom. And right next to the men's washroom, the only thing between them is a little thin wall or something. So here's the thing. Beside the women's washroom, it's great that they've got signage with raised letters and it says women in Braille. But a blind person is going to be feeling the entire wall to find out whether there's a sign here. And when we walk by, what we would hear is just the echo. And it doesn't sound like there's two separate bathrooms. It sounds like there would be just one. So I wouldn't know to go over and check further that beyond here is the men's room, if I was here for the first time, and then look for a sign here. It would be way better if they simply had a door with a sign.
Elevator.
This says main, but the voice on the elevator is going to say ground, which is referring to a floor that's not the ground floor, it's one above the ground floor. Just pushing the main button. In Braille it says main, and listen to the elevator. Which would be completely confusing to me. Am I in the ground floor or am I in the main floor?
Barrier-free washroom.
Right outside the elevators that just came up is an inclusive washroom. There's a Braille sign here that says inclusive washroom, which is great, and there's the international accessibility symbol. But the automatic door opener is not where you would think it would be right here. You have to know to start feeling all over until you get over here. And then we have the big problem though is when I open the door, there's no transfer space in the bathroom. It's a bathroom meant for people with disabilities to be accommodated, but there's not the needed transfer space to meet their needs.
South vestibule.
Now, once you're open that one door and you're now between the inside door and the outside door, again, here we've got another one of these ballards, one of these things sticking up from the floor that I've not encountered in virtually any other building except the disastrous design of the new Women's College Hospital. Wouldn't even know to look for it. If I looked for it, I'd be
crosswalk number 1.
And they have a crosswalk right here with no curb cuts and no tactile prompting that there's a crosswalk here. Now there is a crosswalk with curb cuts just a few meters away, but when I show you how it's designed, you realize it's not much of a solution.
East crosswalk number 2.
So here, just a few feet away, is this other crosswalk where they did put in a curb cut, but it points me as a blind person to walking into oncoming traffic, rather than if they had made the other inaccessible crosswalk accessible, it would point me to go right across the way you ordinarily would cross a street. So this is just from the point of view of safety and accessibility, another blunder.
Conclusion.
Thanks for watching this video. To learn more about us, visit our website at www.aodaalliance.org. To follow our tweets, follow us at @AODAalliance on Twitter. And if you want to sign up to get our email updates, just send an email to aodafeedback@gmail.com. And all you have to say is, sign me up. Okay? We welcome your feedback. Let us know about AODA fails or AODA wins that you know about around Ontario.
If you want to see the long version of this video with more examples of problems with accessibility, go to YouTube and do a search on AODA Alliance and Centennial College and long version.
My name is David Potts. Today is Saturday, November 19th, 2016, and I'm standing in the basement of the brand new Culinary Arts Center built with artificial solids at Centennial College in the northeast corner of Toronto.
Okay, so Karim Spielberg noch. And that's only the 6 minutes. The 18 minutes one has got minute one. יותר אנשים ראו, הסתכלו על הווידאו היותר ארוך. Anyway, this has had a lot of impact. Now, you might think, what can one individual do? Before I tell you about why you're all advocates, I want to tell you one more story about a friend of mine named Deborah. Deborah is a mom. She doesn't have a disability. She's an occupational therapist. Any of those here? Right? That was a joke. And her kid doesn't have a disability, but she was the Rosh Va'ad Horim בבית ספר שלה. והחליטו לבנות renovation, new wing on the school, new part of the school. She said, why don't you make sure there's an accessible washroom in this new part of the school? Because there's no accessible washroom in the old part of the school. And the school board said that we don't have to do that under our law, because the law was very weak. Well, she pressured them to put in it, and eventually she won. That's not my story. The story is that when they put the washroom in, the good news is it had a button that you push it and the door opens. Isn't that great? Automatic door opener. But the problem is they only put the button בפנים. זה קשה לעשות דברים כאלה, המשוקע ביותר. Okay? And she raised it with the school board, and again they said, well, that's all we have to do. So she came to me at some point and told me about this. And I said, are you on Twitter? She said, no. And I said, well, get on Twitter and send it out as an AODA failed tweet. Nobody's following me. I said, I'll follow you. That's all you need. Her very first tweet was a photograph of this and words in the tweet to describe it with an AODA fail. I retweeted it to all of the politicians at the legislature. It got sent all over the place. It went all over. It was her first tweet. I told her, don't get used to this. It doesn't happen every time. I then emailed the school board to follow up on what she had written me, and because I'm chair of the Special Education Advisory Committee, I guess somebody decided maybe they should listen a little more closely. They fixed it. I I can't say it's because of Twitter that they used it, but there is so much capacity. So, why are you all advocates? You're all advocates. Everybody around a person with a disability is an advocate. The parents, the individual themselves, their children, their spouses, and the helping professions who work with them. We're all advocates together because, first, just as you are, if you're an occupational therapist, assisting a person with a disability to learn independence through their actions, you can also be teaching them how to learn independence through their words. You may be in the best position to teach them. Moreover, teaching them to advocate for themselves through their words will help motivate them to learn the techniques that you're trying to teach them for physical rehabilitation. You can't separate the two. Moreover, you as professionals working with people with disabilities have a unique perspective on what the people you've worked with, your customers, I hate the word clients, what they've experienced. And you're uniquely positioned to help motivate them to do advocacy for themselves and indeed to work together. And even if you have no disability now, you're part of our minority of everyone, so it's going to affect you later anyway. So you're on the team. So you will stand, many of you, for people who acquire a disability, you will stand there with the individual at the time when they transition from someone who acquired a disability to someone who masters the restrictions that the disability first caused. And the transformation that's involved in doing that, as you all know, can be accompanied not only by physical independence, but by advocacy independence, or independence through advocacy. You're in a unique position to make that difference, and I know you will want to make that difference. And these techniques will help. The advocacy may not be organizing a community organization, but it may be pointing someone or getting a couple of people together or saying, let's go meet a Chaver Knesset together. I'll go with you, you do the talking, but I'm coming with. Or meet with somebody at this Jerusalem City Council, wherever it may be. But you're in a position, and each time someone takes one of those steps, they're learning to take another one. The biggest mikshol in my line of hitnadvut is not the politicians, and it's not the government officials. The biggest mikshol is the feeling among some people with disabilities that there's nothing they can do that will make things better. Because that leads them not to get active. I don't mean everyone, but I'm saying any number of them. The feeling that we've tried everything, it doesn't work, or there's no point, no one will listen. I don't blame people for feeling that way. It makes perfect sense. But if you've learned something from me in the past hour, I don't do things that make sense. Working with no money makes no sense. Starting new coalitions rather than simply working with an existing one, that doesn't make a lot of sense either. But sometimes things that make no sense work really well. Anyway, thank you all very much for inviting me, and I welcome your questions.
We have about 2 minutes, so we can have a bit of time for questions. No one seems stunned.
Yeah. You say about the parents that you don't have you say like it's a win-win situation. Like if you say to the shops, to the people, like so you don't have accessibility, and the people can fall down the barriers. But you need to pay about this. If you want that all the people with disabilities will come, you need to pay about that. You need to change your business. You need to do many things that it costs money. It's not like it's a free situation to go out, to fall down all the barriers. you understand what I'm saying?
I understand completely, and there's a complete answer.
And the most of people, like,
They don't have the money, or they don't
if you
understand
don't
it.
change the law,
Yeah.
it's very difficult to the people to change to be more
I-
accessibility to the people.
Okay, I agree with you, and that's why I've spent so much time working with others to change the law. So I agree with you about that point. But on the other hand, a point that I will make to business people and to government is that many of the changes we need do not cost much, if anything. Many of them. But there is a stereotype. You say disability, you say nigishut, they say kesef. It's a stereotype. It's a stereotype just because the same way that there's a stereotype that אנשים מוגבלות לא יכולים לעבוד במשרד, הם לוקחים יותר מדי זמן לעשות משהו, all the stereotypes, they're all stereotypes. But the other thing, what I like to do is I like to start with an organization and say, hey, how about putting Braille on the washroom door? You've got the word ish or isha or anashim, sheep in print. How about putting it up in large letters for people who can't see well and putting up in Braille? Cost you a few bucks. Can you do that? Oh, I can do that. I never thought of that. Okay, you got a couple of steps at the front door. Get a temporary wooden ramp. A couple $100. Then parents with baby strollers, people with shopping carts, people with disabilities. A couple $100. Can you do it? Oh, I guess I could do that. All right, well, let's start with those two things. Oh my God, I got these more people coming in. Now let's start talking about other stuff. You're playing really loud music in your restaurant. Customers with autism can't come in and eat there.
Old people.
Old people, people with hearing loss. Me, I hate it. I bet a lot of you hate it. Can you turn down the music? Does that cost you anything?
No, I understand.
Do you follow me? But you start with these things. And every step they take swings them in our direction. Because as soon as they do some things that don't cost much money, that tends to weaken the stereotype that everything you have to do for us will let you terminate. Okay? So it's all about slowly chipping away wherever we can. Now that's not saying I'm giving up on the big stuff. I believe you, the big stuff is important to me. Other questions?
But to change it in the here in this university or in every university in the country,
Yeah.
we don't have the number of the rooms,
Yep.
classroom in Bright.
Yeah, but I would I'd start with the bathrooms. I'd start with, listen, everybody wants to know where to go to the bathroom. And once people see the Braille there, it sort of reminds them. Okay? It doesn't cost anything to require them to not create more barriers. Don't make things worse. That argument was very successful in Ontario. Other questions?
Something a bit more philosophical, I think.
Sure.
I love the way you just defined it, saying meaning us being as advocates for our customers. And I think it's something that comes up in our disability group that we talk about as a doctoral student. Talking about, well, like nothing about us without us, meaning people with disabilities are the ones making changes for themselves as opposed to the paternalistic feeling of people that are trying to make other changes without disabilities, trying to work together, and sometimes I feel like it kind of collides together. And then how do you do it right? You defined it so nicely, but I think sometimes when we try working this out, I think we...
Listen, there's two things. I've always heard nothing about us without us. I don't disagree with that. Don't leave us out. But us includes people who are going to get a disability later. Those of us who've already gotten ours don't have a monopoly on good ideas. The The other thing I want to tell you is this is a huge change in thinking that many of us have reached. The old way of thinking, starting in the 1970s, was that the biggest problem that we face as people with disabilities are the attitudes of other people. So the solution is raising awareness, and then the attitudes will change and the behaviors will go away. It doesn't work. It doesn't work with adults especially. Kids, sort of. Kids are more hopeful. Adults are harder to educate. That's why we send kids to school. There's still hope. Okay? So, I don't talk about raising awareness. I get punchy when people talk about raising awareness. I don't believe in the chain of events. I raise your awareness, you see the light, you go home, you give orders at your business, everything changes. Some people do it, most or too many don't. I want to change action. I want to raise action. And I don't care why people do the right thing. I don't care if they get rid of a barrier because their awareness was raised, or because they're afraid of a lawsuit, or because they think they're greedily going to make more money. I just want them to get rid of the barrier. Nothing educates, nothing raises awareness like a strong, effectively enforced law. The best students in a classroom on accessibility are people who are feel that they got to go out and comply with the law or they're going to face legal consequences. They are the most motivated students in the world. Or, if you put it another way, borrowing from Yadut, from Halacha, Na'aseh v'nishma. Let them do accessibility. Then they'll learn about accessibility. Now, that doesn't mean you don't do educational programming. I never said that. But the politicians or others who say, well, our goal is raising awareness, and that will solve it. My answer is, no, it won't. We tried it. It doesn't work. Other questions?
Thank you.
You mainly, well, or as I understand it, you address the law. You're saying, I'm changing the law, it's going to take off barriers, and I'm going to solve the problem. How is it going to change, for example, labor market? I'm thinking the people whom you can work with are people who can afford working in your organization. These are people with or without disabilities that can volunteer. It's people with from high or
High socioeconomic
Okay,
status.
Or Chedin, or anybody. Okay, let me answer you with three things. First, I just want to be clear, it's not just passing the law, it's also making sure they enforce the law. We passed a good law in Ontario. They're doing a poor job of enforcing it, so it's not just passing it. The second thing is how does this change the employment for people with disabilities? And I'm going to give you several thoughts. I agree that legislation alone won't solve it, but you can't get a good job if you can't get a good education. So we need to target michsholim b'chinuch so that students with disabilities get a full and equal opportunity to get a good education. You can't get a good job if you can't get to the job. We need to get rid of the barriers in public transportation. You can't get a good job if you can't take care of your health. We got to get rid of the barriers in the healthcare system. As for employment, I'm going to offer you two thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts on employment, but this is policy now. the workplace of today is very different than the workplace of 10 years ago, right? Technology, the hours we work, whether you work at home, all of that changes. The workplace of 5 years from now is going to be different again. If we were to decide now to make sure that the workplace of 5 years from now will be a fully accessible workplace, the technology, the human resources practices, we could achieve that. I really believe it. If not 5 years, 6 years. Now let me talk to you about your final question, which is, this works for people with professional training or high socioeconomic status. Can I tell you something? One of the things that's been amazing in doing what I do, I really find the strength in our movement are the amazing people I have met around Ontario who come from every background. One of our most effective advocates 20 years ago was a mother. I don't know if she had any professional training, but she was worried that her son wouldn't have Nagishut for university and for the independent life she wanted. And when I would go on TV, I'd bring her with me on some interviews. And I thought I was a pretty good presenter, but I'd shut up because I wanted her speaking, because every politician saw her speak, and she was everybody's mom. She wasn't a fancy lawyer with all the legal arguments and stuff. She was everybody's mom. She was an amazing advocate. We had a volunteer outside Toronto who had been a teacher, but her multiple sclerosis got so severe that she's in bed most of the day. She could only get out of bed. She could only get out of bed for 1 or 2 hours a day. You know what she did during those 1 or 2 hours? She organized events for us, or she got the media to cover us, or she wrote columns for the media, and then she went back to bed for the other 22 hours of the day. She was amazing. There's a number of other of our folks who are from all backgrounds, from a lot of higher socioeconomic status and professional training to none of that. You just got to give them ways to be active, and whether it's a Twitter campaign or some other strategy. It may just be phoning into a radio program and telling their story. As long as they got a phone and they can tell their story, that's all they need. But that's the challenge of being a community organizer, is giving people the way to do it. It's a fantastic question, by the way. A very good question.
There are more hands in the room, but we're out of time, so we might. Is it okay for me, David, to say openly, you stated this in lunch with me in a frat, but if someone has a question, can we forward to you?
Sure. My email, I don't want this on the video, just because I don't want to get It's in with the email show.
Okay, you can give me your email, and anyone who's interested, I can connect you, of course.
Yeah.
And I have also the email list of
Yeah,
what's around and
sign you
people
up.
signed up.
And follow us on Twitter at AODA Alliance.
You're right that we don't have, I know nothing about Twitter. I think Israel is really
I know. Good luck.
Other places, we use all of them.